11th hour power is a power gained by a character towards the end of a story. In JoJo parts with stands, this power is gained by the protagonist during the final battle with the main antagonist of the part. I personally think that this is an issue more often than it is not. Nearly every stand part does this, and most of the time it is pretty questionable. I will be going through each part and breaking down the quality of the power and the quality of its plausibility and/or foreshadowing. Major spoilers ahead. The worst, in 6th place, is obviously Giorno's Gold Experience Requiem from Part 5. I've spoken about this in more depth in another video, but I will summarize here. The ability is overpowered, and when I say overpowered, that is never a compliment. This is the reason the actual battle between Giorno and Diavolo was terrible. As you will see in later fights, this ability has no compatibility with the enemy's ability. It is overqualified for the situation. As for the introduction, the concept of Requiem stands was set up right before the final battle, so it didn't have much time. Plus, Requiem stands were a retcon to the stand arrow, and the ability it got was not foreseeable. All of these are why I ranked it in last place. In 5th place, I have Josuke's Soft and Wet Go Beyond from Part 8. I'll shorten this to GB. GB is an invisible bubble with an explosive spin that emerges from Josuke's birthmark made up of infinitely thin lines. These qualities come together to make a bubble that is not from this world and can transcend physics. He is unable to aim this by himself and needs the assistance of Yasuo. The quality of this ability is very mixed. It is definitely compatible with his opponent's stand, because Wonder of You basically has supernatural luck, and anyone who chases him will meet deadly misfortunes. It is basically impossible to attack him, but this ability offers a solution. The issue is how unnatural it is. Josuke's bubbles had the ability to plunder and had minor explosive properties. GB brings back the spin from Part 7, which Josuke has never trained for, and gives his bubbles the ability to simply break physics. While I like the counter to his opponent's power, GB is a huge leap from Josuke's moveset. It feels very forced. I do like that he can't aim it by himself though. This provides some sort of balance and doesn't make it completely broken. I think Wonder of You should have been given a better weakness, rather than Josuke being given such a forced ability. As for its introduction, like many others, it is introduced a little bit before the final battle. It's one fight before they start chasing Wonder of You. Mamezuku talks about Josuke's bubbles being made up of ultra thin lines that spin. It's okay, but personally, this could have been alluded to in the first chapter and it still wouldn't make it any better, because Josuke being able to use spin is never hinted at or explained. In 4th place, I have Jotaro's Time Stop from Part 3. The power is self-explanatory. The quality is pretty average. It's the exact same ability as his opponent's, so of course they complement each other. It is pretty overpowered, but since the opponent has the same exact ability, this doesn't become an issue. The explicit foreshadowing comes before the final fight when Anyaba says that Dio and Jotaro's stance are similar. This is pretty late, like most parts. Then throughout the actual fight, Jotaro shows obvious hints that Anyaba's claim might be more than just their stats and appearance. Jotaro can see and later even move for a second in stopped time. While the introduction of the hints are pretty late, and some might think Anyaba's justification is BS, at least the ability makes sense compared to GER and GB. In 3rd place, I have Johnny's Infinite Spin from Part 7. When Tusk reaches Act 4, Johnny gets a spin that can break through dimensional barriers and cause the hit target's cells to spin infinitely, leaving them incapacitated. The ability is compatible with D4C's Love Train, but it's not as satisfying as Part 3 or later parts because like Part 8, it is an overpowered response to an overpowered ability. Love Train redirects any attacks directed at Valentine to somewhere random in the world in the form of misfortune. So an ability that transcends dimensions is kinda necessary, but like I said about Part 8, I mostly blame this on the enemy stand's ability. Unlike Go Beyond, this spin doesn't have any kind of drawback, but the reason it is ranked so far ahead is because of its foreshadowing. Throughout the part, Tusk has been leveling up with Axe, similar to Koichi's Echoes. Act 1 gave Johnny spinning nails, Act 2 gave him shots that after making their mark can move their location, extending the created wound. Already, Johnny is showing a degree of spatial manipulation. In Act 3, he gets the ability to shoot himself and suck himself into a wormhole created by the shot. Once again, he is shown spatial manipulation, but to an even higher degree. So when Johnny gets Act 4, the continuation of the spatial manipulation trend makes sense. In fact, this development makes even more sense than Echoes, as from Act 2 to 3, we went from sound to gravity. While the possibility of an Act 4 was new, it also could have been predicted, because his acts are literally numbered. So the fact that this new power takes into account the acts that have been sprinkled throughout the part, along with Tusk's increasing manipulation over space, is what makes me rank this power up so high on the list. This is the first time I will consider an 11th hour power in JoJo to not be too problematic. In 2nd place, I have Josuke's new applications from Part 4. Unlike the previous part, Josuke doesn't actually receive a new ability. he just uses his original ability in creative ways. The two applications I'm talking about are the concrete shield and the homing projectile. The first has Josuke breaking the ground and fixing it into a wall. The second has Josuke mixing his blood into a projectile and firing it to the position of the dried blood on his target. Both of these were used twice, and both of them were genius displays of creativity. For compatibility, Crazy Diamond's fixing and Killer Queen's explosions are a perfect match. One heals and one destroys. There is no need for justification because it's just Josuke using his abilities in a creative manner. In first place, I have Jolyne's Mobius Strip in part 6. This is easily the greatest 11th hour power. It is, like Josuke, not a new power, but Jolyne using her ability in a creative manner, but it is also a perfect counter to her opponent's attack. Araki must have planned Sea Moon and Stone Free's abilities ahead of time, because the way this counter pulls no BS and makes pure sense is amazing. Sea Moon has the power to shift gravity and invert surfaces it touches. The second is the one that's important. If Sea Moon hits a part of your body, that part turns inside out. If he strikes his opponent in the head or heart, it is most likely a guaranteed kill. Jolyne counters this dangerous ability by turning her body into a Mobius strip made of strings. A Mobius strip has no inside or outside, so it can't be inverted. Anytime a part of her body is struck, she turns it into a Mobius strip. The justification is self-explanatory. From the start, Stone Free allowed Jolyne to turn parts of her body into strings, so there is no room for BS. I can't express how cool or genius this ability is. The Mobius strip is perfectly compatible with her opponent's ability. It's simply an application of her original ability, and isn't even close to being broken. All of this makes Jolyne have the best 11th hour power in JoJo. In conclusion, parts 5, 6, and 3 have questionable 11th hour powers. Part 7 has a more justified one, with a better setup and actual ability. And parts 4 and 6 have amazing powers because they are technically not 11th hour powers, as it is just an extension of their original abilities. So out of the actual power-ups, 1 out of 4 isn't questionable. This is a bad ratio, and it is really dissatisfying when the protagonist does this during the final battle, the climax of the part. That is why I say JoJo has an 11th hour power problem. Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, share, subscribe, and check out my manga for free online. If you enjoy my content, please consider donating to my Patreon. All important links will be in the description.